He's likely the best known unknown figure in Sligo's rich and widely celebrated music scene. Tommy Grennan, artisan woodworker, master guitar maker, goes about his careful, quiet work far from any stage. Yet his presence is often felt on those stages, adding tone and texture, style and signature to much of the live music that's happened in these parts the last 50 years or so. A member of the American Guild of Luthiers, Tommy crafts his guitars at what could be called a stately pace, informed by traditional methods going back 100 years, guided by the legacy left by those who came before.
Oh no, I'm just after thinking of something.
This guy is, I think he's Canadian, Grit Laskin. He's a fantastic guitar maker, but he's absolute expert on inlay.
You'd nearly cry looking at some of these fellas, you know. But you'd be afraid to play them.
And it's not only guitars that are made here, seemingly magicked into life in this beautiful old family workshop. This is where Tommy's cabinet maker father went about his own trade in the 1950s. But fine-stringed instruments of various kinds, mandolins, mandolas, bouzouki, and the occasional exotic specialty order. Here's Francie Lenihan doing what Francie Lenihan does on a replica of a 1930s era American Weizen-born lap slide guitar.
Like Tommy, in a way, he's a master. There's nothing, like, if he sees anything, he wants to know how to do it, how it's done.
7-string. There's an extra string on the third string, an octave string. Gives it a kind of a 12-string sound, you know.
I have two of his guitars, and I would say that this type of a finger picking style guitar would be very close to a Tommy Grennan guitar, in my opinion. My friend Ian Bordley has one as well. And it's a beauty. And again, you can play it any style, but it really does suit the finger picking.
The thing about Tommy is he's always been, he didn't want to do it on a large scale, you know. It's a very personal thing to him. He just, if you can get Tommy to make your own instrument, you're very lucky, you know, because he doesn't do it for everybody, you know.
I wanted an instrument there that I could play sort of melodies on. It was a little bit smaller than the bouzouki, so octave mandolin or a mandola, depending on how you tune the strings on it. So it was a sort of they do exist elsewhere, but sort of an idea that I wanted an instrument like this. So just bring it down to Tommy, tell him what you're wanting and all that. He comes up with an instrument that'll suit what you're after, you know. You can basically take any instrument and say, can you make something along these lines? And he'll be more or less able to do that. So he made that for me one summer, and I used to go up to the Peace Park here and play it. And anyone that saw it, yeah, what's that? He has the G on it here for the Grennan, so nothing too fancy with it. I didn't want fancy, and it's a simple but very nice decoration. He's a huge reputation, and he's very modest with it, and Even I was telling him about this instrument here that I've tuned this way and it's sounding incredible for me. And he's going, oh, that's good. Not too, but I can tell you, he's delighted. But he's not going to make a big fuss about that, you know. So, like, that's, you could meet Tommy out in one of the pubs or that, and you could have a conversation about instruments. He'd be telling you, I've made such and such, and he used to call all these bodies boxes, so I have a great box out there, he'd say to you, and I think this is going to be a really good one, you know. I'm constantly looking at other instruments and coming up with ways of doing it and understanding how they work, so fascinating stuff, like.
This man, Irving Sloan, did everything by hand, because I'd say he was only working in his apartment, you know. I wouldn't say he had a proper workshop as such. That's from the Gibson Company. These are from the Martin Company.
So we wanted to get it fixed before that. Anyway.
While Tommy may do his thing very much behind the scenes, he's known by those who know. He's the go-to guy for musicians who need a fix, a finesse, a repair, or a rescue.
I bet you he has the carbon fibre on that.
Do they bend, do they?
When Ted Kelly, banjo maestro with West of Ireland alt folk outfit Moxie, needs to get rid of a buzzing sound just before a tour, it's Tommy he goes to.
It's brilliant.
Sounds great, doesn't it?
And when Brian McDonough of trad music legends Dervish is faced with a crisis, a set of very pricey, very precious instruments gone missing in transit through Charles de Gaulle Airport, he thinks to ask Tommy for not just a replacement, but for a replica. And he gets one.
Well, the Gibson mandolas. Now this is what's called a H2 Gibson mandola. You know, they were made at the turn of the century. Some of them are 100 years old at this stage or more. You know. So I had two of them. I carried them around in a big flight case, the two of them in one case, you know. We had to stay overnight in Paris, and then we caught the flight the next morning back, but the mandolas never made it, disappeared. The case and the lot vanished, stolen obviously, you know. Oh, it was dreadful. I had those instruments for 30 years, you know. So I turned to Tommy anyway and asked him would it be possible for him to make me a copy of the ones that I lost, and he did. He did a great job of it too. He knows everything there is to know about doing it, starting right from the choice of the woods, using really high quality materials, down to cutting it out and shaping it and putting it together, fixing the neck, getting the frets right. It's a very, very complicated thing to do, putting the struts in the right place, you know, and getting the action right, and the nut, and it's just, he has it all. But the amazing thing about Tommy is that most instrument makers, they have their repertoire of instruments. They might have a guitar, a bouzouki, that they make. But Tommy can make all sorts of diverse things like this. He just made this instrument from scratch for the first time, you know. It's the first one of this kind of instrument he made. So it's quite extraordinary that he could pull off a feat like that without making some kind of a mistake along the way somewhere, you know.
It takes a while for a guitar to settle in, you know. That's just there was a Spanish maker, and he said when he's making a guitar, he's fuera del mundo, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's out of this world, he's in a different thing altogether, you know.
What about you? Do you ever get out of this world?
I do when I drink.
All right, Tommy's younger brother Jerry, himself an accomplished picker, can remember that Tommy seemed to have a natural talent for creative woodworking, even as he began his education alongside his father.
You know, it was the passing on of the trade as well. Tommy had great ideas. I'd always watch Dad react to the idea. Tommy would have an idea. Well, maybe now, for that angle, if we did it this way. And Dad would go, oh, yeah. I mean, all down from word go, even with the instruments. Dad was amazed with Tommy's ability. You know, the creativeness to be able to make an instrument from nothing. You know, just the raw wood, and you come out with an instrument. Dad was amazed at that. He told me, he said, I don't know how he does that. I don't know how he has the patience to do it, you know. So that myself and Dad would talk about that from time to time. Yeah.
That's the other thing about Tommy. I mean, a lot of instrument makers, they have a factory, you know, and they have a guy making fronts, and there's another guy making fretboards, another guy making, and they all have their specialities, you know, the way it's finished and all the rest of it. But Tommy does the whole lot. He starts with the pieces of wood, and he makes the instrument all the way to the end, you know.
And also the fact that he's a musician himself is a huge bonus to his work, because he can look at this and he can play it after he has worked on it and go, no, it's still not right, I'm not happy with this. So he'll go at it again, and you know, that's a worker's, a creative person's ability, but it's also a musician's temperament to have it right.
Tommy was in a bunch of bands and outfits through much of the 1970s, playing 12-string guitar, bouzouki, mandolin of course, and banjo. Here he is playing in McGlynn's pub, Old Market Street, Sligo. That's Tom Moore in the background on one of Tommy's mandolas. For a number of years he was a member of local trad and Irish folk group Gantry, along with Kevin Flynn, Philip Flynn and Nicola Ryan. Tommy, seen here with Nicola in 1974, remembers that the band were big supporters of his work when he was just starting out as a luthier. And here's Philip and Tommy together in 2008. Philip is trying out a new bouzouki that Tommy just made for him more than 30 years after they played together in Gantry. And though he doesn't play anymore, Tommy's name as the guy who makes those really great instruments continues, even into the next wave of young guitar players. Aoife Grennan is Tommy's niece. Her dad is Jerry, and the third generation in a line of family musicians. Whenever she plays in public lately, she is reminded that the G for Grennan has quite the cachet.
If I was playing his guitar in the pub, people would come up to him, come up to me and just say, "Where'd you get that guitar? Like, where?" And they'd see the G at the top, and I'd say, "That's Tommy Grennan." "Oh yeah, you know, Tommy does." And they were like, "I really would love nothing more than to have a guitar made by Tommy Grennan." And it's not even, they don't want the Gibsons, they don't want the Martins. It's, I know, my lifelong dream is to have a Tommy guitar, and then I can nearly, you know, stop buying guitars. You know the way musicians, they have about 15 million guitars.